Hey everybody. Excuse me. Oh, I got an echo. Hey everybody, welcome back. I appreciate y'all joining us for the fourth week, I believe it is. Actually, let me get me. Sorry about that. I don't want that to echo for you guys. So this will be the fourth week. We're going to be joining in talking about our football. Appreciate everybody joining back. If this is your first week, sorry about the delayed start, but we're going to get it rolling here. Talking about usually NFL, NCAA, just really football in general. Last week we mainly talked about the NCAA, but this week we're going to switch gears back, reverse to the NFL. So we're going to mainly be talking about this week the NFC, and then we're going to be breaking down really my NFC predictions. For the bulk of it, we're going to be talking about the division leaders, and then at the end we'll be getting into my wild card predictions, playoffs, NFC championships, and then obviously the Super Bowl contender for the NFC side. So I'm really excited for the NFL season. It's going to be, about 112 days away now. I know it sounds like a long time, but it's going to be coming back slowly but surely. So we'll dive into the NFC West. There we go. So the National Football Conference, obviously the 16 teams of that side, good little piece of history right there since the 1970 merger. 24 Super Bowls is actually more than the AFC, and then the most recent will be Eagles and 17 most overall. Cowboys with 5, tied actually. I don't know why that's not up there. They're actually tied with San Francisco 49ers. Excuse me. But like I said earlier, we're going to switch over to the NFC West, and we're going to mainly. It's really not even a close margin in my particular opinion. You know, some of these divisions are a little bit more competitive than others, but this one isn't. It's the repeat's going to happen again. You know, the Rams are going to absolutely take this division. I don't expect them to have any trouble whatsoever. Now the Seahawks, I think, are a strong second for that team, but then the 49ers really, and as well as the Arizona Cardinals, are just in full rebuild mode, especially with new coach, new quarterback, etc. in Arizona, and then over in San Francisco, they're trying to get their franchise quarterback to stay healthy and have a decent season. But for this prediction, the NFC West, I'm actually going to give it to the Los Angeles Rams. Head coach Sean McVay. This will be his third year, and I just look for him to improve. One of the good things that I actually enjoy about him is that he does improve. So. And I'll get to that in a second. But just overall in 2018, it was just an outstanding year for them. They dominated, pretty much on both sides of the ball. They had excellent personnel. Their defense was statistically lacking a little bit, but they, on both sides of the ball, they have, just overall, some of the best personnel, some of the best stars. They signed a lot of stars over last 2 off seasons ago, I guess you will. A lot of 1 year deals, but so they went 13-3. They had an outstanding 7-1 home record. As you can see, they're ranked second overall in offense and 19th in defense. That stat threw me off a little bit, but what can you say? But they sure did take care of the turnovers. As you can see, they were 4th overall with a +11 ratio in the give and takeaways. So they may not have stopped them or got the most passing. It was most likely passing yards. Passing yards seemed to take account into the total offense more than the rushing, in my opinion. So, but they get it taken care of with fourth overall. Like I said, their strength of schedule, it was pretty tough last year. They actually they were tied for the fifth overall in their schedule and how tough it was. And this year they're going to actually catch a little break. So into my next point that you can see is my 2019 points of why I think that they're going to win their conference. Well, it's not very, like I said earlier, it's not very competitive. It's a little bit, but it's not very competitive as some out there are. Their strength of schedule this year is going to be, polar opposite. They had a pretty tough one last year, even though they dominated, walked through it like it was nothing with a 13-3 record. They're going to have they were ranked 27th toughest schedule coming out this coming up year. They had a shoddy defense. So they go out and they get veteran players to fill those spots. They go out and they get Clay Matthews. They sign him out of Green Bay, obviously. And they need a safety. Well, what do? They go out and they get Eric Weddle, a free agent. He spent a couple years in Baltimore, but ultimately he was actually in San Diego from the Chargers. So they've done a very nice job in free agency, and they've done just a very nice job in the draft as well. So very good. As you can see, that's just why Sean McVay is in regards to a lot of people. He's just one of the best coaches out there. He's and he's only been doing it, like I said, for 3 years. So he's in high regards to a lot of people, and that's just a lot of reasons right there. And one of my other reasons, down at the bottom, the McVay and Goff. This is going to be their third year together. And both of them, if you look at both of their stats for the past 3 years, they have consistently gotten better each year on their stats. So I just look for them to duplicate that. They had an absolute dominant year last year, and for them to go out as embarrassing as they did in the Super Bowl, that was just a tough game for anybody, but just a tough loss for them the way it ended up. So I look for them to definitely try to repeat, and they're going to have a very successful year. So expectations for them, I definitely for them they absolutely see Super Bowl or bust again this year. So we'll switch it up to the NFC East. Always one of the most favored divisions. Very dramatic. I love it. I'm actually, I've said before, I actually live here in Dallas. Although I'm not a Dallas fan, it is fun to hear everybody and talk to the fans, things like that. So. Speaking of Dallas, we actually, that's what my prediction is going to be for the NFC East. I think Dallas is going to take it home behind Ezekiel Elliott. I think Dak is good. He does a lot of wins, things like that. But they're going to do this behind Ezekiel Elliott. Without him, I think a lot of this. They're not as successful. I'm not saying that they wouldn't be as successful without Dak. They wouldn't be successful without Dak. But Zeke is just that puzzle piece, and he can do so many things. He's top 2 running backs in the league, in my opinion. So, head coach Jason Garrett. We'll see how this year plays out. He pushed everything off on the kind of the offensive coordinator last year. A lot of people wanted him gone, but and Linehan, rightfully so, shouldn't have been calling plays. It was so planned and so predictable. Obviously that was kind of the talk of the offseason. So he's obviously no longer there. So one of the big things about the Dallas Cowboys is they have all the talent on both sides of the ball to really make a championship run, either that being a NFC championship or possibly even a Super Bowl. They have the talent on both sides, like I said. The biggest question right now is they got a young, brand new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, coming in and make sure that mesh, and if that goes smoothly, then I seeing him have a successful career. Successful year and career. So I have them winning the NFC East. It's always a dramatic year. I don't think that they'll win it as easily as they possibly should. But I have them winning the NFC East. So one of the biggest things on that, I'll push them actually both up there so y'all can read them while I go through 2018 stats. 10-6. They were absolutely incredible at home, 7-1. So if you can get them out there in the Star in Dallas, then they're a tough team to beat. They're a very physical team. Overall ranked offense 22nd. Well, that's what they needed to work on. They've got the puzzle pieces. Last year it was a big matter of play call, and they fixed that. So, or at least they think they have. We'll see. Defense is their strong suit. 7th overall defense. Well, they signed. We'll get to that, but ranked 12th overall in turnovers. They'd like that to be a little bit better, but overall statistically they had a good defense, good run defense, things like that. So now strength of schedule last year it's pretty much going to be mirrored from this year. Last year was tied for the 15th toughest schedule, right in that middle. This one's going to be just a tad tougher. It's going to be tied, I believe it is, with Green Bay. Tied for 14th in toughest schedule. So one of the biggest points that you can see up there is DeMarcus Lawrence. Well, they signed him to a mega deal. Now it's time for him to earn his money and show him why y'all signed him to so much money. It was a record deal, I'm sure. Kellen Moore, OC. That's going to be a big difference maker from this year to last year. He's a very young, creative mind. As you can see throughout the league, that's what everyone's kind of turning to do, trying to mirror Sean McVay, that Kyle Shanahan, Adam Gase type. So Jason Witten coming back to the Big Blue. I love it. Coming out of retirement, he was a big. He's been such a big puzzle piece for them for so long. It's going to be nice for him. I hope they can get some success for him doing all that. So get him out of the booth at least. Now Amari Cooper, he didn't have a full season with him, but absolutely had an incredible year. I think getting him out of Oakland really kind of just energized him and really just. Not so much brought him too much more of a purpose, but I just didn't think he fit well with Oakland, and getting him out of there and getting him in this just new atmosphere in Dallas versus Oakland, and then now with this young offensive coordinator, I think it's going to be fun what they can do with him, and for him getting the timing down with Dak over the off season, so that they can kind of mesh and gel. That'll be fun to see. I absolutely think that they'll get back to the 2 years ago, the rookie season of Dak and Zeke. So they're gonna win the NFC East. Calling it right now. Scranton Strangler. Expectations for them. I put them on a Super Bowl. They absolutely can. Like I said earlier, they have the talent on both sides of the ball to win a Super Bowl. So it's just a matter of them putting it all together. So switching over to the I believe it is the South. Yeah, we're gonna switch it over to the NFC South. Let's see, starting from Tampa Bay. Now, in my particular opinion, no offense to any Tampa Bay fans out there, this is my team they are just, all records aside, they don't have the worst record, but they're just in total disarray, just the worst team in the NFL. I think they got quality players, obviously, like Mike Evans, and now they got that solid Devin White linebacker in there, things like that, Gerald McCoy, stuff like that. But I think they have a lot of work to do. And Jameis Winston, I think that this is either he does something this year or he's out. I think this is kind of a last call for him, where they need to start looking elsewhere to another veteran or a young guy next year in the draft. Because obviously, if he doesn't work out, they'll be probably picking first. Going over to the Falcons, the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers, they're both 7-9. Carolina was actually on a pretty decent run last year, up until Pittsburgh kind of thumped them, and then all of a sudden they just kind of fell off a wagon. I don't know what it was. They just slowly went downhill. You can see they were both pretty good on a hot streak until then. Now the Falcons, you can clearly see they're an offensive powerhouse with Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, and then Calvin Ridley had a fantastic rookie year. Now they just need to do something on the defensive side of the ball. They were absolutely plagued with injuries on the defensive side. There was probably at least three or four starters, key starters on their defensive side that were injured. So, I don't have their stats on me right now, but I'm pretty sure passing defense was one of their biggest issues. So, they looked to kind of tighten things up a little bit with everybody coming back from injury. But I don't think that they'll be very as well as the Carolina Panthers competitive, if you will, because I absolutely think that the New Orleans Saints are going to take this division by storm, as well as other things. So the New Orleans Saints with Sean Payton had an absolute dominant year last year. They were 13-3 as well, best record in the NFC. With the LA Rams. They had one of my favorite things is that they played great away. As much as they only had 3 losses, so it's kind of hard to say that because they only lost 3 and only one of them was away, but they played great everywhere, but especially away, and they're actually known for playing in the Superdome and with that home atmosphere. So they can play anywhere, and I just think that they're a solid team. Absolute, ranked 8th last season in offense, 14th in defense, 7th in takeaways with a positive 8 differential. So defense solid, takeaways solid, offense solid. They've got a great quarterback, experienced quarterback, Super Bowl quarterback. They've got a fantastic running back in Alvin Kamara, and this is going to be his second year to take the full load. This is going to be his 3rd year total, but it was kind of abrupt last year, right at the beginning of the season, that Mark Ingram, was traded. But now that Calvin, he's got a full year, of reps, he's obviously he didn't need it because he's an absolute workhorse if you watch his training videos. But I think that the Saints are going to take this conference actually. So 2019 season points for them. The strength of schedule, they have a cakewalk. It's going to be 22nd toughest season. The toughest schedule, I'm sorry. It's going to be a cakewalk, baby. They're going to have Drew Brees, like I said. They're going to have Alvin Kamara. They're going to have nothing in their way, if you can see that. The last 2 seasons, if you look at it, the 2017 season, it ended in that fluke play with the Vikings. Catching it, him missing the tackle and him catching it, right. I think, was it in overtime or right before overtime? Case Keenum, pretty much the play of Case Keenum's career. Then you look at last year, and they were absolutely robbed, right, in the NFC Championship, both of them right there. So the last 2 seasons have just ended in just such a disappointment, and really, just really just shouldn't have happened. So I look for them to seal up their season this year. They've learned from their mistakes. It's not going to happen. So they're absolutely expectations of Super Bowl. So they're gonna they're not going to make any silly mistakes. Is I guess what I'm getting at. So we're gonna switch over to the North, the NFC North. NFC, obviously the Chicago Bears dominated it on defense, pretty much with Khalil Mack leading the way. Really just a shocking move that he went that Gruden kind of sent him off, but he's a workhorse, man. Now through all these guys, I will go down. We'll start. Obviously with Detroit, a lot of people actually harp on Matthew Stafford. I'm actually a fan of him. I think he's a guy. He's a gunslinger, a guy out of Georgia, but obviously he's a guy that has never won a playoff game, but has always had a chip on his shoulder, but has never been able to finish a game. So I don't. That's all I expect from him again this year. They didn't go out and they didn't get him a bunch of crazy talent on there. They actually lost. What was it? Golden Tate. I know he wasn't there. He wasn't even there last year, but that was one of their biggest guys. What Calvin Johnson left. So. That was obviously a long time ago, but he's just never really had a consistent solid guy at wide receiver. And, I know he's got Marvin Jones. That's one of his big guys now, and they got the tight end. But really, the point of this is that I just don't think that all the blame should be put onto Stafford as it tends to. So he doesn't have much help around him. So. But I don't expect him to do much this year. 6-10, about that. Maybe 7-9. So, going on to the other two, we'll actually go to my prediction of this and kind of jump to that one. I'm actually going to go with the Green Bay Packers. It may be a little curveball to some people, but I think that they've got a young defense. And if that gels together, I think they're pretty quick. Obviously, they lost Clinton Dix, and then they lost C.J. Mosley. Well, they attacked those in the draft and in the offseason. Got some players, some young players, and I think that they're gonna that it's really gonna be a good trade-off. Trading that experience versus speed and just that young talent. Now, overall, obviously they had a pretty disappointing season last year. They were 6-9-1 with that horrible tie. One thing that stood out to me that I wanted to put out there was that they were 1-7 away. So they obviously need to address that issue. Ranked 12th overall on offense. Now I pretty much put all of that onto Aaron's and Devontae Adams' shoulders, because without those two, they wouldn't have an offense. Ranked 18 overall in defense. That actually surprises me. They were decent. They're slowly getting better, but that actually surprises me. I actually thought that they were probably around the 23-24 range, but they weren't that. So they're in the middle of the pack last year. And I think they got a lot of young players that's going to improve them this year. So I expect them to be, around, 12-13 overall at the end of next season. But the main thing on this this next season is going to be that new head coach of theirs that they're going to get. Now, they did have the absolute toughest schedule last season, so that doesn't help. And then their quarterback was injured. But Aaron's been injured for the past 2 seasons. Obviously he broke his, was it collarbone, clavicle, something like that, 2 seasons ago, and then he hurt his leg season 1. Not season 1, game 1 at the beginning of the season, and it really just took a while to heal pretty much throughout the whole season. So hopefully he's rested. They got Mike McCarthy out there. He was criticized for being a little simplistic in his play calling. Kind of like the Dallas incident with Shanahan. So, or I'm sorry, Linehan. So they got this new guy, Matt LaFleur, which I love his last name, LaFleur. So we got Matt LaFleur in there. They got the a little less tougher schedule. They don't have the toughest. They have the 14th, like I said earlier. They're tied with the Dallas Cowboys. So that's one of the best things going for them. They've got Aaron Rodgers, hopefully. A healthy season. I hate to see anybody, especially with as talented as he is, to go injured. They've got another good pass catcher in Jay Sternberger. They're one of those teams that just really seem to succeed whenever they have a dominant tight end. So Jay Sternberger is I look for him to have a pretty good rookie campaign. And then again on there, like I was saying, that young defense, they got the Rashawn Gary. They also got a safety, and I'm trying for the life of me. I was trying to remember his name while I was talking, but it's kind of hard to do that, blah blah blah, talk and think at the same time. So I've got it written down there. But anyways, let's see. Darnell Savage. So they got Darnell Savage out of Maryland. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. So they got Darnell and then Rashawn Gary to really seal up. Like I said, they kind of attacked those veteran players that they lost in the draft. So that's kind of those young defense that I look for those guys to make an impact early. Now we'll the expectations for them. I really just expect them to kind of hit around the divisional round, maybe the wild card. If they were to make it to the NFC Championship, I would say that would be a pretty successful season, and that would shock me. But who knows? They've got one of the best quarterbacks. Anything's possible with Aaron Rodgers. So those are my four division leader predictions. Please in the comments let me know what you think. I really appreciate any feedback at all. Let's see if I got anything. Not anything yet, but hey, like I said, let me know anything, any comments, questions, or predictions that y'all may have, and I'll make sure to write them down. And if y'all can get some predictions right, then I'll do some giveaways, stuff like that, or we'll come up with something. So. Anyways, so this is kind of the bracket that I'm going to use for this next playoff scenario. I'm only going to be filling out the right half of the bracket, and I'll do the AFC next week. So this is the Scranton Stranglers 2019 predictions for the NFL playoffs. So right off the bat, those are the four that I just listed, those division leaders. I'm going to throw them up there. Obviously, in those orders, in that order, I think that the Rams are going to slight edge on the Saints overall. The Rams, with personnel, they got the Rams, adding Clay Matthews, Weddle. They have an easier schedule. They pretty much have a cakewalk. I'm going to give the edge to the Rams. Now, we're actually going to see them meet in week 2. So that might be an early indication, or whoever wins that might be looking for revenge in the next round, whoever loses that first one. So we'll see. But I've got the Rams going first overall, first seed. I apologize. Second with the Saints, Cowboys third, and then Packers are going to slide in with their divisional win. Now my 2 wild cards I'm going to give to actually the Seattle and then Minnesota. Those are the top, out of the other 2 teams I think are going to just sneak in with the wild card right there. So now in those, obviously come into the Rams and the Saints have their first round bye. And now in this particular scenario, I have actually the Cowboys beating Minnesota. And then, believe it or not, I've got Aaron Rodgers beating down. Now, that was probably the toughest one for me. Again, I might get a little flack right there, but I actually typed in Seattle, but after thinking about it, I just think that the Packers, that's going to be my big bold prediction right there. So the Packers over against the Rams, and then the Saints over the Cowboys. For my next prediction on the NFC Championship, it's going to be a repeat of last year, actually. I've got the Saints over the Cowboys, and then the Rams over the Packers. With the Saints beating the Rams this time over the to go into the Super Bowl to face obviously the AFC Championship, which we'll get into next week. So I just have the Saints going all the way to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be their year. We'll switch it over to that one, and who knows? This might be the Breeze and Peyton last campaign, especially if they end up right here. They may hang it up, but I think it's going to be a perfect one. That is, if they win it. I'm not saying that I'm predicting them to win the Super Bowl. At this point, I think I am predicting them to make it to the Super Bowl as of right now. So this is my post spring NFL NFC prediction. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully I wasn't too long. I see running out about 32 minutes, so that wasn't too bad. But again, I appreciate all y'all's support. Please give me some some follows, subs, things like that, and feedback, because that's the most important thing. You can always follow me. Go to the Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, and Metalhead threads. Check out some cool stuff. Again, thank y'all so much, and I really hope y'all have a good night, okay?